Yeah. Got the flight book, it's a library. I'm in the DRDO. Just took a flight to Bora Bora in foreign cars like foreigners. Berry on her. Up in France, bitch, bonjour. I been come to go so we going Paris tomorrow. Only bags some carrots, spin at the mall. We doing the same alone. My diamonds be saying, add some more change. That's the same alone. Dripping all the way from home and taking the wrong. Got the flight book, it's a library. We ain't flying solo. Tune in to the show. It's the Passport Bros. No excuse entertainment. Jay Slay on the show. Turn it up some more. It's the Passport Bros.
What's good? What's good? Man, it's good to be back on the Passport Bros podcast, man. I am streaming currently from South Africa. So I appreciate you all that are tuned in. Let me shout out Just John. Said, what's good? No excuses, man. What's good? What's good? So I did this type of stream a year ago, just kind of giving my recommendations on where I think Passport Bros should travel in 2024. So this current list is a little shorter than last year, and I'll kind of explain why. And then also kind of go into some things about Africa, Asia, and just kind of what I see globally. TG Loco, what's good? What's good? Hope all is well. Hope all is well. So yeah, I'm currently in Johannesburg. So wrapping up my Africa trip, and then after Africa, I'll be in Colombia. And then I'll pretty much be the end of this 6-week vacation I've been on. So before I get into these top 3 destinations, I just kind of want to talk about the methodology, behind these places that I'm going to mention. So what I look at for Passport Bros, and what I think is important for Passport Bros is to invest in places, spend your time in places where you can build legacy. And always look at building legacy in places where you can own land outright. Because if you have legacy, you want to have something to pass down to. I think that should be very important, especially for us that plan on having sons. If we're going to have sons, we want to make sure that we are not necessarily birthing sons, but we want our sons birthed in countries that are going to be a better situation for men, hopefully in the future. So most of us probably watching are American, so our sons will always benefit from our American, being an American citizen. But then if they're also a citizen of these certain places, they can pretty much have the best of both worlds. So I always want to forward think. I'm thinking about legacy. And so owning land outright is important. I feel like it's important, and it should be important for Passport Bros. Other travel content creators, some may not be too focused on, things like legacy for whatever reasons. But here on the Passport Bros podcast, it's about legacy. It's about dating relationships. It's about, being able to buy real estate, start businesses, etc. in a small select, countries that I'm going to talk about. Shout out to the super chat from Just John. He said you should add some honorable mentions too. I am. I'm glad you mentioned that. I am. I'm going to start with the honorable mentions before I get to the three. And I'm going to do it by continent. Appreciate the super chat. So the first part I mentioned was legacy, which ties into owning land freehold. So that's part of the methodology. The Hague Convention, I did process of elimination before as far as countries that don't have these agreements with the US as far as family court orders, for example. So it's not about dodging any type of family court order in another country. It's the fact that you don't want the matrix following you. You know, someone, in some of these countries can weaponize their system and ultimately affect you using your passport. As if you have some family court issues in the US, you can lose your passport privileges. So I'll look at the Hague Convention, countries that participate, countries that don't. Also look at level of attractiveness. Also kind of get an understanding from research I've done on dating and relationships. Obviously, cost of living is one of the bigger factors, weather, and things of that nature. So that's kind of like the methodology that goes into that. Now, I'm going to start with honorable mentions. And this will be kind of an open floor. So I did pin the link in the chat if anybody wants to come up and talk about travel or things of that nature. So I'm going to start with honorable mentions. So I'm going to start with Asia. So there's a lot of countries in Asia. If guys have been following travel content creators for a while, or myself, you'll know that Asia isn't favorable for foreigners owning land freehold. So therefore, it makes it unattractive. It makes it difficult to build legacy, and then also you don't really have the upper hand because you have to go into situations where you have to have a partner, whether that's a spouse, a local Asian, Thailand, for example. So you don't really have full autonomy over things, and I feel like, if we're going to be investing other places, we need to have some type of, upper hand when it comes to something, whether it's business, whether it's real estate, etc. So Asia, for honorable mention countries, it won't be a surprise, but it will. I'm going to say Thailand and Philippines. So and I've been to 3 Asian countries: Thailand, Philippines, and Japan. So I've been in the travel community long enough, seen and heard enough things, and so Thailand and Philippines are pretty much, 1 and 2, irrespectively of each other. I would say Thailand number 1. Shout out to International Zoe. He talked about getting his retirement visa in Thailand. Tailor Made Dreams out there, Zoom to Thailand, Travelversity, Chocolate Man in Thailand. So I'm trying to memorize people. And then we got some Philippine content creators as well. Whoever I'm missing, please put it in the chat. I'll shout them out. But yeah, Thailand and Philippines, honorable mentions. But unfortunately, you can't own freehold land there, so I don't really include those on my list. So that covers Asia. Africa. So currently in Africa, currently Africa. So, I hyped up South Africa a lot. I'm going to talk about this on my other channel, No Excuse. So if you guys interested in Africa or Afro-Colombianas, I talk about that on the No Excuse channel, No Excuse ENT. But I want to give honorable mentions for Africa. So this turnaround, I returned to South Africa. I went to Uganda and I went to Tanzania. And what I found was that I end up liking Uganda and Tanzania more than South Africa. Now, the main differences with So the reason why South Africa is no longer on the table is because it's too Americanized. It is. I went 2 years ago. It was, it was very, very good experience. And 2 years later, I think what guys has been kind of echoing is caught up to me. It is the Matrix 2.0 South Africa. Now it's fun, great weather, a lot of things to do, great for a person that wants to be single, which most passport bros want to be single. So South Africa probably won't be an issue. But if you really want to have the option to settle down, take a woman seriously, South Africa is just going to remind you too much of the United States. The lingo they use, the attitudes, the audacity, the disrespect to a lot of ways, bad eating habits, it has caught up to South Africa. So Uganda is a gold mine. A lot of guys didn't want to believe, that it was going to be worth visiting, but Uganda definitely a gold mine. I would say only drawback is that there are a lot of attractive women, you know what I mean, but they're not as attractive as South Africans and Tanzania women. And then I'll see y'all questions real quick. And then Tanzania, or Tanzania, however you want to pronounce it, Tanzanian women are more attractive than South African women. I was surprised by that. I was surprised by that because a lot of guys, they didn't really give that comparison. Maybe because some didn't been in South Africa, but I found that it was more women that was fit in Tanzania. There's a lot of pretty faces. Tanzania has a mixed subset of people too, with the black and Arabic mix, and then Nyash, or booty, big booties. I thought South Africa was the king of big booties. It's TZ. TZ got it. TZ got it. They neck and neck with South Africa. They neck and neck, but total package, TZ can compete with Colombia. And that's a hard statement. TZ can compete with Colombia. So somebody asked about Kenya. Kenya is right behind South Africa as far as being westernized. Yes, they're fun and things of that nature, but if you really talk to enough people and in these groups, even African men say they would not want to marry a Kenyan woman. They would marry Tanzanian, Uganda over Kenya. So Kenya is very, just like South Africa. They have a strong command of the English language. They understand our lingo. They mimic it. So yeah, Kenya is right behind South Africa, but Kenya is a very fun place. So let me answer. Let me come here. Let's see. Mr. Wood said Morocco. Yeah, I got some guys going to Morocco. It's just not a country that I would go to personally, but I've heard good things. Here's another thing about Africa too that I've noticed. And this is something that's going to might not be a surprise. So light-skinned guys versus dark-skinned guys, and I'm talking about, one extreme to the other. So like if you're in between, like caramel complexion or peanut butter complexion, it don't really apply. But like light skin, I got a guy that kind of looks like I got a guy that kind of looks Indian, a friend that kind of looks Ethiopian a little bit, but on the lighter side. And so in places where it's predominantly dark skin, a lot of those lighter guys, they just didn't feel that, they just wasn't feeling the vibe. And a lot of times they end up liking the vibe of Northern Africa, So I don't know why. I ain't gonna say I don't know why. It's just one of them things, So Because I get some light skinned guys saying, how would I be, how would I fit in Africa? I mean, I feel like if you black, you black. But just from experiences and others sharing their experiences, I just know that, guys that typically end up liking Northern Africa and appreciating it tend to be lighter skinned guys. Let's see. Really, you think Tanzania are more attractive? Yes, TZ is more attractive total package wise. Total package wise. Only thing about TZ is that I just didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy the city Dar es Salaam, mainly because it's very touristy. You don't really get the African feel. Everything is kind of catered around, tourists, whether it's American, European. I like music. When I like to hear music pertaining to like that region, and in a lot of the places they just play a lot of old, what we would consider old American music, and the vibe I just wasn't feeling like that. And then the malls in Tanzania, like there's not really a mall culture. They have like one level mall, maybe like you walk 10 minutes, about 10 minutes, you're at the other end of the mall. And so it's not really an ideal place to like meet women as a lot of major cities. So it's boring. Dar es Salaam is boring. There's some things to do. You could go to Zanzibar. There's some things you can do, but it's gonna feel like you're going to Cancun a little bit. When I say Cancun, I mean it's gonna feel like you're in the United States. Cancun, you feel like you're in another country, but it's set up like you feel like you at home. So that's TZ. Harvey Williams said, "Has your opinion on Western Black women improved, given your experience in Africa and South America? My opinion on Western Black women, um, nothing has changed as far as how I view Western Black women. I would say they have influenced a lot of South America and Africa through social media, not intentionally. Um, Western Black women are very attractive on social media. I mean, they love watching TikTok, they love watching Instagram. So, you know, in the not intentionally, yeah, it hasn't changed. They unfortunately they're having a big effect via social media on a lot of on women in general. Let's see. Mr. Wood said Morocco's are the Brazilians of Africa. Interesting. Brazilians in what way? Looks, exotic looks. But I've heard good things. Zero to Hero said, what about infrastructure? Which country has the best? I would say, I mean, Asia is a lot of countries that has good infrastructure. Africa. Oh, I want to mention Rwanda too. I haven't been to Rwanda yet, but I've seen Rwandan women in TZ and Uganda, and they represent Rwanda well. Rwanda probably has a lot of attractive women too. So I don't want to jump conclusions because I was disappointed with Ethiopia, but I would say based on where I've been in Africa, Tanzania has the most attractive women in Africa. I'm going to make that statement. In Africa, infrastructure, South Africa has good infrastructure. Rwanda has good infrastructure, and I heard Kenya is up and coming as well. So I'm going to get to Latin America, and I'm going to start with number 3 place to visit. So, those that don't know, I've been to 14 cities in Colombia, and I've been to each city multiple over times. And like I started out the stream, I said this list is shorter than last year because, guys, the world is getting smaller, man. But Colombia is king, is still king, for a lot of reasons. Guys are going to different cities. There's different cultures in each city. It's just a place that does not get old, despite the crime, despite death, whether it's accidental or murders. Despite a lot of things, Colombia is still the number one destination for passport, bro. So I'm throwing this city out there. I'll be back here 2024's hip as well. It's pronounced Riohacha. Riohacha. So where's Riohacha? So Riohacha is on the coast of Colombia. It is in they don't call what we call states, they call departments. But it's in a department called La Guajira. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, which borders Venezuela. So Riohacha is a coastal city, which a lot of passport bros travel to. We travel to islands and major cities that are by water because we like vacation and beaches. So Riohacha is on a beach. It is the northernmost major city on the coast in Colombia. I've been there a few years ago. It can get a little hot, but they have a lot of nice beaches, a large indigenous population as well, and a lot of attractive women. I did a stream. I think I did the stream here almost a month ago, and a few guys was like, "Man, keep keep Riohacha, you know, on the wraps, because it's a not too much visitor city, which is good. Um, it's going to be cheap based on what locals could pay for. Anybody that's interested, let's say, in buying land or real estate, I'm sure there are going to be some opportunities in that as well. Um, but yeah, it's beautiful women. If you want to meet women in Riohacha, I think the formula is pretty much the same. You know, Tinder, which I really don't like Tinder for Colombia for a lot of reasons. I like the sites like ColombiaCupid.com or LatinAmericaCupid.com. I met one lady from Riohacha. She was cool. Um, the next city I'm going to mention is adjacent to it. So number 3 is Riohacha. TG Loco said, not to get off topic, but what country in Africa you've been to has the biggest booty? Oh, I mentioned that. I want to say TZ, man. It's TZ and South Africa can go neck and neck. But TZ women just have more, less body fat. More they're a little bit more toned in TZ. So yeah, TZ in South Africa, but I'm gonna give the edge to TZ. Harvey says, since you've been traveling, has your opinion of black women of in Africa and South America gone down? Is there anything that disappointed you? I mean, I was disappointed in South Africa, because it was a lot has changed in 2 years, via due to, I think, social media. And Traveling Tony would say liberalism, but I'll get into that. I'll get back to that. Um, TG Loco says, "What? I'm surprised. People say Uganda got some thick women too, but here's the thing with Ugandan, the way Ugandan genetically, the shape is something. It's something about that area genetically which is different. Um, the way I want to describe it, you know, I don't want to. I don't have a good way to describe it, but put it like this: we've all seen women that a certain asset what looks good with clothes on, but then with clothes off, it doesn't look as appealing, right? So hopefully you could kind of get my drift. All right, so that's Rio Aka. If you have any questions about Rio Aka, put it in the chat. But like I said, I think that's a place that guys that visit Colombia should definitely check out. Great beaches, beautiful beaches, cheap, beautiful. Cheap as far as transportation, food, lodging, things of that nature. Beautiful women. Uh, they have a lot of they have some resorts as well, and to get to Rio Aka, there's only I would say there's only two ways you could get to Rio Aka. You get there via Bogota. So you'll fly to Bogota, and then there's a flight from Bogota to Rio Aka. And then obviously, if you go home, if you have to fly home, you have to fly back to Bogota. Or I've used the um, I've used a bus, and they have a bus line that goes down the coast as well. So from, let's say, Cartagena or Barranquilla or Santa Marta, you can catch a bus to Rio Aka. And from Santa Marta to Rio Aka, it's about less than 4 hours. Between 3 and 4 hours, if I can remember correctly. So that's how you'll get there. All right, so I'm gonna go to number 2, Santa Marta. Santa Marta. So let me get 2 questions real quick. Let's see. Steve wins infrastructure in Uganda and infrastructure in TZ. Oh yeah, TZ infrastructure is way better. Uganda got a lot of ways to go. I felt like I was in Ethiopia when I was in Uganda. Um, I did like some of the beach. Uganda does have a beach because they have a big lake. I did like that. That's in Entebbe, but Kampala, no, the infrastructure got ways to go. TZ was very nice. The airport looks brand new. The roads was nice. Yeah, TZ definitely has better infrastructure. Let's see. Does Riaka have a large? No, Riaka does not have a large black population. No, no, it does not. It has a large indigenous population. So you'll see a lot of, and you'll see some indigenous people, and then the women, they will have that indigenous look to them. Very pretty, long hair. They'll definitely a lot of women will definitely have that indigenous look as well. So what country between Tanzania and Uganda has annoying insects while walking outdoors? I didn't really spend too much time outdoors walking. I was pretty much in Uber in and out. And a lot of times in TZ it was just too hot for me to be out there in a day. So I would say, as far as the malaria, because I took malaria pills going to those countries, and it's more common that people catch malaria in Uganda. So you'll see a lot of women in their beds that have the mosquito nets. TZ, you can get malaria too, but I think that Uganda may be more, maybe could be more likely. But yeah, I don't really feel like, I wasn't really bothered too much with, with bugs and things of that nature. So let me chime on Santa Marta. So number 2, Santa Marta. A lot of guys travel there. They're done with Cartagena. They're done. Santa Marta is like a baby Cartagena. They have something like a wall city. If you go to their central, it does kind of remind you of Cartagena a little bit, the way the historical buildings are, the setup. The block radius is smaller than Wall City or El Centro in Cartagena. Um, there's a lot of Venezuelans there. That could be a good thing for guys. Um, Maybe not for others, but they have, I would say, in a positive sense, they have a lot of Venezuelans there. Um, what's slightly different in Cartagena, they don't have the big red light district like that. So, adult entertainment there is not as big as in Cartagena, but people like Santa Marta because it's just a new vibe. You got different beaches. You got some beaches a little far off where you will have to like, get a boat ride to go to, which is in Parque. I can't think of the name right now, but it's Parque something, right? It's a national park, and they have beaches out there as well. I'm going to go back to Santa Marta in 2024 again. For me, it was a little more, it was a little too slower pace, but I haven't really dug into Santa Marta enough to really give a full assessment. But a lot of guys that been traveling to Colombia for a long time, that is a destination that they like. Um, there are beautiful women. I mean, there's beautiful women all over Colombia. There's beautiful women in Santa Marta. It's a little closer to Barranquilla as well. I noticed a lot of guys visiting Santa Marta. They tended to, find women in Barranquilla that came to Santa Marta. So I think that distance is a little shorter. I want to say less than 2 hours, or about an hour. So the distance is not too far from Barranquilla, so you'll see a lot of that. If you're a beach person, you'll definitely like Santa Marta and Rio Aca. I'm gonna show kind of the weather comparisons too, in a moment, just to kind of compare what the weather is like in those cities like Santa Marta and Rio Aca, just to kind of just so you get a sense of like how it is relative to Cartagena for those that been. And guys that are looking for women, and this is kind of my what I realized, especially married to a Colombiana, is that if you with somebody from a tourist city, uh, you know, subconsciously, what I mean, if you're not living there, it crosses your mind about if they're in an environment where they cross paths with tourism, whether it's through work, whether it's through just regular transportation or going to the mall. And so we all know that when we on vacation, we shooting our shot at every attractive chick we see, you know. And so I don't want my girl getting hollered at 10 times more than what she already is by local men. So Santa Marta, Rio Aca is not too many tourists. Um, is not a lot of jobs that's centered around tourism. And so you'll probably likely, find, a more palatable partner. Let me catch up on some of these questions. TG Local said, "How was Cali, Colombia, and how much is the language barrier in that city?" And Cali, Colombia is not my favorite city. Great restaurants, great nightlife. If you like salsa, I would say, yeah, great nightlife, great food. They're very attractive women, but it's just not a place where women are just in public like that. So it's a place that requires you to spend a lot of time and really, you just have to be patient when it comes to women. The language barrier, less people speak English there. It's not as big of a tourist place. So there's gonna be a larger language barrier than, let's say, Cartagena or Barranquilla, where they speak a lot of English, or even Medellin, where English is picking up. TG Local said, how often do you have to take malaria pills in Uganda? So in the United States, well, if you get a prescription from the United States, it's typically they give you a set of pills based on how long you're going to be in that place. So you take one pill each day, 3 days before you arrive, and then you take a pill each day during your stay, and then you take 7 pills after you leave. So I didn't have any side effects, pretty small pills. It's like a vaccine. It's prevention. And even if you didn't have those vaccine pills, if you just went and got malaria, you can get treated pretty quickly. You'll just probably be kind of sick for a few days. I think Austin said he got malaria when he was in TZ. It's Jay Clyde, man. What up, bro? Salute, salute. Big Colombian traveler. He said those beach vendors in Santa Marta was relentless when I went there. Yeah. If you went to Rodero Beach, that's like the beach that's actually in the city limits of Santa Marta. Yeah, it's a lot of people like, trying to sell stuff. It's kind of dirty. It's not like the best looking beach, but it's like Cartagena, right? So Cartagena has beaches like Hollywood Beach, um, Marbella Beach, which is in like the city limits of Cartagena, but those are not the beaches that you would typically go to for a nice beach. In Cartagena, you would go to Rosario Islands, you'll go to Playa Blanca, you'll go to Cholón, you'll go to all these places that requires you to get on a boat. There's ground transportation too, but it's uncomfortable. So you'll get on a boat, about 20 minutes, you'll be to one of those beaches. So Santa Marta is kind of the same way. So you got the main beach in the city, and then you actually got the nicer beaches where you're gonna have to get on a boat and go to the national park where they have a lot of different secluded beaches or whatever. But yeah, I feel you, bro, on that. Harvey Williams said, do you think it's better to have fun with women in Santa Marta or find a woman to marry? That's a good question. So for Santa Marta, yeah, and I kind of alluded to it. I think it's a better option than, let's say, Medellin, Cartagena, to find let's say, a wife. Now I'm not gonna say it's the best, but a lot of it depends on how you meet her. Now, if you I'll be honest with you, if you meet her on a dating app, from my experience, it's just that how you meet them is how you lose them. And so it's just like meeting a woman in the club. Not that you can't find a good woman in the club, but subconsciously women end up going back to the club either when there's a problem in the relationship or even breakup. So if you break up with her, guess where she's gonna be? Back in the club where you met her. So people tend to be addicted to places. I don't want to say addicted, but people tend to miss some of the things they used to do how you met them. So if you met them in a club, unfortunately, she's going to be a woman that's going to have the itch for a club once in a while. Whether she goes or not, the itch is going to be there. Same thing about being on these dating sites, because I've been on them as well. You do, even if you meet somebody, sometimes you get the itch just to check and see what's out there, you just kind of peek. So I'm saying it all that to say is that when you meet women off these dating sites, it does come with a risk. So if you meet a woman in Santa Marta out in public or on the ground, yeah, she's probably more wifey material than a woman in Medellin or even Cartagena. Now, women in Santa Marta, they aren't naive. It is tourism. There's women that other women know that met or dated foreigners, so they're not going to be oblivious to foreigners as well. So women are not that green in Santa Marta either. Rio Aca, I would probably say definitely, probably a higher chance of finding a woman that you could marry over there. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, Santa Marta, number number two place you should visit when visiting Colombia next year. So I'm gonna move to what I think should be a country guys should travel to, give a chance in 2024. El Salvador. El Salvador. So I did a couple streams with guys that have been to El Salvador on this podcast. So you can search for those videos as well. Also had shout out to he's not here live, but one of the homies, man, he's been to El Salvador twice. So he's a young traveler. And so he's hopped on a panel as well. So I like to get perspective from guys that just travel for the first time. And he said he loved, he said he enjoyed himself. He met women. El Salvador has a great beach. They actually have black sand beaches out there. I know a couple guys that married El Salvadorian women as well. I haven't been to El Salvador. It will be my place to visit, but I heard the infrastructure is nice. I do. They have some nice amenities like Starbucks, some American, things as well. I heard that guys that are interested in like crypto, very crypto friendly society. Cost of living is low. There is adult entertainment, from what I've gathered as well. So it has a mix of things. There's not an overwhelming, presence of, let's say, passport bros visiting El Salvador or Central America, period. Central American countries, from what I found, surprisingly, doesn't have as much of American influence as you would think due to proximity. Even Mexico, even though I'm not a fan of Mexico, Mexico is right on the border of the United States. And it dawned on me that wow, Mexico is right there, but Mexican men, you don't see feminism in Mexico like that. It's very macho. Women in Mexico, they have roles. You even see how women interact with their men when they come to the United States. They still are loyal and respectful to their men, even when the laws and culture give them the freedom to disrespect their men if they wanted to. They choose not to. So it's very interesting how Mexico and Central America sticks to their own culture and ideals. So I've looked at the Central American countries. If you want to ask me why I didn't mention this country or that country, I'll give my 2 cents on that. But El Salvador with their president, with what they did with crime, building up all those prisons, incarcerating pretty much, a major, incarcerating a lot of men that they felt were a danger to the public. El Salvador has become, the or one of the more safest places in Latin America. good infrastructure, beach life, women, definitely not up there with Colombia or the Brazils or the DRs. However, um, from what I've seen, there are attractive women, and I think it's worth visiting. If we're gonna be global travelers, let's see what Central America has to offer. So I think El Salvador should be a destination you should travel to in 2023. So we covered three: Rio Aca, Colombia; Santa Marta, Colombia; and El Salvador. So I got some info I want to share on. I want to talk about buying land in El Salvador. So let me share my screen real quick. Let's see. Share screen. So I found this source, and this is a United States source. So I know, Google sometimes there's a lot of conflicting sources. So the U.S. government, let me just start at the top and make sure you guys can see what I'm looking at. So the U.S. government does basically studies or reports on different facets for every country in the world, right? And so this is called the Investor Climate Statements, El Salvador. So they have one for each country. So if you're ever curious, you can Google that. So they have a lot of categories, but what I want to look at is protection of property rights. So this is very important, especially when we're talking about real estate. So, and I use this when I go through my process elimination as well. So let me read this real quick. Protection of property rights. Private property, both non-real estate and real estate, is recognized and protected in El Salvador. Mortgages and real property liens exist. Companies that plan to buy property are advised to hire competent local legal counsel to guide them on the property's title prior to purchase. Per their constitution, no single natural or legal person, whether national or foreign, can own no more than 245 hectares or 605 acres. That's a lot anyway. Reciprocity applies to the ownership of rural land. El Salvador does not restrict ownership of rural land by foreigners unless Salvadoran citizens are restricted in the corresponding states. The restriction on rural land does not apply if used for industrial purposes. You have the same rights as a Salvadorian citizen when it comes to buying land. I'll read this last paragraph. Real property can be transferred without government authorization, which is good. This means that you can transfer your property to anybody you want. Kids, family, whatever. A lot of countries don't allow that. The government will have to authorize it, or will have to, go back to the government. For title transfer to be valid regarding third parties, however, it needs to be properly registered. Laws regarding rental property tend to favor the interests of tenants. This isn't a surprise. So this is basically saying that if you are renting to a local, the tenants is gonna, they're gonna favor the tenants, meaning that it's gonna be harder to evict tenants. I've heard this for Colombia, for example. We have challenges in the U.S. and certain states when it comes to that. So that shouldn't be too much of a surprise. For instance, tenants may remain on property after their lease is expired, providing they continue to pay rent. Likewise, the law limits the permissible rent and makes the eviction process extremely difficult. So when I think about buying real estate overseas, I'm not thinking about buying it to rent to locals. A lot of times I'm looking at either for myself or maybe it's an option for Airbnb. But I wanted to kind of share that with you guys as well. And then I wanted to share the weather comparison to all the places I mentioned. So let me share that real quick. Let's share that real quick. All right, cool. So I use this website called WeatherSpark. I know some guys have started using it as well because to me, whether it's relocating or vacation, weather is part of my decision. So I like to use this site because I can compare different cities. So right now I got El Salvador, I have Cartagena, San Salvador, Rio Aca, and Santa Marta. So I just kind of want to look at how it is to Cartagena. So I don't know if you guys can see, but Cartagena is in green. And so basically I see a lot of overlap with Rio Aca and Santa Marta, which pretty much the weather is going to be pretty much the same Cartagena for Rio Aca and Santa Marta during the day and the night. El Salvador looks to be a little cooler, especially at night. So I'm looking at this bottom line in purple. So it's a big difference at night. So you're looking at in the low 60s at night, which means maybe some times of the year you might have to throw on a jacket at night. And then during the day, in some months, it's in the mid 80s, which I think is pretty comfortable to go to the beach and enjoy. Maybe not comfortable. I don't want to get in the ocean if it's not too hot outside. So San Salvador, it seems like the weather will probably be more comfortable than it would be in Cartagena or the other two cities I mentioned in Colombia. So just wanted to give you guys an idea of the weather. I could kind of see what the precipitation looks like as far as rain. It is some rain seasons. It is rain seasons in like Cartagena as well. The patterns look pretty similar. Not too much rain from January to March or December to January. And then you got periods of rain from like April to like October. Pretty much. So just wanted to share that with you guys to give you an idea of weather. So let me know if you guys have any questions about these places of Rio Aca, Santa Marta, or El Salvador. So I'll be just to give you a channel update. I've been kind of focused on the No Excuse channel because that's kind of like a certain direction I'm going with that. With the Pastor Bros podcast, it's going to be Colombia heavy when it comes to a lot of topics. It's going to be Colombia heavy. Also going to talk about things going on in the travel community as well. So I got some things in store for 2024. I plan on setting up a dedicated studio space for the podcast as well. So appreciate you guys supporting this channel if you already support the other channel as well. But the world is getting smaller as it comes to not being like the Matrix. So yes, guys are still traveling to Brazil, DR, Costa Rica, other places, which is still cool as well. I just look at Colombia as number one when it comes to those spaces. So if we want to do by region, Colombia when it comes to South um, America, El Salvador, Central America, North America, we can say DR, Africa, I'm saying Tanzania, Asia, Philippines, Thailand. TG Local said, if you don't mind me asking, how are you able to afford to travel a lot? With travel, I think it's more about you can afford to travel well based on how far it is, right? Or based on what you don't do in the US. So I travel a lot. I'm able to afford to travel a lot because I don't do much when I'm in the US. Pretty much work, go home, pay basic bills. Obviously, I don't go out on dates and I don't spend money on clothes. So when you cut back those expenses that you really can live without in the US, it frees up money to travel. It frees up money to travel. So that's how that obviously, I have a job that pays pretty well. I'm a chemist. Um, so I have a career that pays pretty well. Um, but it's also and like I tell guys, man, be smart with your money. Most people, how should I say this? Most people that make less than $250,000 a year probably get some type of tax refund, depending on you know how depending on a lot of factors. I'm gonna say that. And so, what some guys have told me, including myself, is that if you get if you get a tax refund, you can use that money to like buy flights, at least buy a flight or two for the year. So now you got that flight out the way. And then when the time to come to that trip, only thing you have to pay for is hotel or Airbnb. And then I always tell guys, especially if you're a budget traveler, I always tell guys to plan your trips. Leave the United States the same day you get paid. Therefore, you have your whole check at your disposal. Because I've planned trips where I didn't get paid, and by the time I left, I done spent most of my money on buying stuff for the trip and be like, man. So just if you're a budget traveler, that's my advice. Uh, plan your trip so you leave on the day you get that direct deposit. Just John, appreciate another super chat, man, for $2. He said, no excuses. Can you give insight on Eastern Europe? I haven't been to Eastern Europe. So the current climate is it's a war going on in Eastern Europe region. And then obviously with the recent events with you know Israel and things like that. So I had a friend that he was going to Lebanon and he had to cancel. But Eastern Europe, first part of that is the current climate is just not. It's what I mean. It's just a high risk area to travel to right now. From what men have said, a lot of men have said that there's a lot of wifey material in Eastern Europe. It's very common. Marrying a woman from Eastern Europe is not a new thing. But a lot of people say wifey material. Um, I get mixed reviews on, let's say if you're black, how you're received or not. Obviously, you're received well by women, but men may be a different situation. I've heard, women are very attractive. For me, it's not my speed. But like I haven't been to Eastern Europe, I can't give too much insight. But a lot of the most all of those Eastern Europe countries, have are part of the Hague Convention when it comes to the United States as well. So um, when it comes to family court issues, it's going to follow you to U.S. if you know, have families, marriages, divorces, whatever the case may be, in Eastern Europe. So you're not really escaping the matrix when it comes to family court. Let's see. Big Mike was good. He said, I prefer South Africa over Colombia. I did too. I did too. So I can't argue with you about that. I did too. It has flipped. It has flipped. Um, but there's things I love about both countries. There's pros and cons about both countries. I like South Africa. Obviously, I like the music, the Amapiano, the vibe, the infrastructure, great restaurants. But I would do South Africa with a significant other. As the single lifestyle is just too. It's just going to be like me being in America. Now, Colombia has issues as well. Like women aren't as ghetto or disrespectful as, let's say, a South African woman could be. However, Colombian women are a little bit more headstrong as well. So that's kind of what you get. So a Colombiana, she's gonna be more headstrong, but she's gonna be, she's gonna be um more respectful, more softer, cooking, taking care of, making sure you're good, obviously making sure they look good and things of that nature. But you're gonna deal with they have childlike behavior with temper tantrums. I don't get temper tantrum. Well, you won't get temper tantrums with South African women. However, you meet the wrong chick and she's gonna talk slick to you like you in the US. So you basically picking your poison at that point. Let's say Big Mike, brothers should not go to Eastern Europe. There's a large neo-Nazi community. It's good to know. He said your son said, I'm a milkman, I'm a white man, so my white European, I want my white European woman. No, I feel you. I feel you, man. Passport bros come in all shades. And a lot of white guys, they tend to like Eastern European, Asian. And some Latin America if it's not out the way. African too. There's a lot of white guys in Africa too. What I mean, living it up. So no, I feel you on that. If you're a white guy, I mean, look at Donald Trump. That's his speed right there. So very attractive women. TG Local said, you, Austin, and Czech definitely opened my eyes to Africa, especially TZ, SA, and Kenya. Definitely on my list to do. Oh, yeah, man. No, I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's, I think guys should visit a African country, you know, depending on what you're looking for, it may vary. You're going to enjoy Kenya, you're going to enjoy South Africa. But if your ultimate intentions is on like, finding a wife, submissive, that's gonna need you. Let's be honest, a lot of men want to feel needed. Uganda and Tanzania probably be better options. Rwanda I gotta do the research. Gotta get more intel on Rwanda. I don't trust everybody's opinion. I got to see for myself. Just John said, from what I hear, a lot of Latinas and Hispanics tend to, let me see, tend to well in Eastern Europe. So I want to find out for myself. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of there's a lot of hopefully I'm understanding. There's a lot of Latinas in Europe actually, from Colombia, for example, from DR, in Spain. Well, Spain is in Eastern Europe, but yeah. Give me clarification on what you, so I understand what you're trying to say. Big Mike said, just John, if you light skinned Latino, then you're gonna fit in Eastern Europe. Okay. Okay. And that goes to something I mentioned when it came to Africa. Like I got lighter skinned friends. People like what they like. People know where they're gonna get the most success. And a lot of my lighter skinned guys, they will hit Northern Africa, they will hit Eastern Europe, maybe Argentina, Australia, and they just feel like it's just the better vibe. It's not even the women all the time, it's the vibe. You know what I mean? Some people are just not comfortable around, you know what I mean? It's just like me being in a predominantly white environment. I might feel out of place versus me being in a predominantly dark environment, and vice versa, you know. So it, it's something. It's literally something for everybody. He said, "When are you going back to Africa?" It's a great question, man. I'm trying to plan 2024. I'm trying to do. I've been doing like a lot, so I'm trying to reverse how I was traveling. I was traveling like, let's say, 9 times a year, but it was only like 3 and 4 day weekend trips. So I really found myself not really getting a lot out, and I just found myself like pretty much burning myself out. So even though I was traveling 9 times a year, I was only on say 4 day weekends. So I want to take less trips with more time. So since I'm going to take less trips, you know, I'm still trying to figure it out. But I do want to go back to Africa in 2024. I want to go back to Tanzania, Uganda, and I want to hit up Rwanda. But that could be hit in one. I mean, that would be done in 1 or 2 trips. El Salvador is on the list as well. Colombia, and I do want to return back to. I do want to get back to Thailand Halloween weekend. I do want to get back to Thailand. Thailand is a great place, affordable place, great food, good weather. I mean, the vibe in Thailand, I just love it, man. I just love it. I ain't gonna lie. Thailand is a even if the women, it's not even about the women with Thailand. Thailand is a place I could visit, and it's not about the women. Like it's just a great vibe. A great vibe. Big Mike said the best place for brothers in Africa, we fit in better. Yeah. But I will say though, white guys get a lot of love in some of these African countries, Kenya, Uganda, even Tanzania, Because you gotta understand too, there's a lot of foreign investment in Africa, typically from a lot of these European countries. Because John said, I'm brown, but on the lighter side, so not dark. He said 2024, I'm considering, hold on. What is Thailand? I never heard of that. Estonia in the summer as my big trip. Okay. Yeah, just make sure like it's not in in the crossfires of like what's going on in Eastern Europe. Definitely look at the Department of State travel advisory if you're going to Eastern Europe. Big Mike said, I cut my trips from 5 a year to one a year. The reason is that I'm working on an exit plan to permanently live overseas. Yeah, if you got to go, that's good. I know a couple guys that have shut it down for the year, maybe one trip, and really on their grind. So there's going to be guys that you probably haven't seen in a while, then they're going to come back because they've been just on the grind. TG Local said Thailand on my list too. So many places, so many things to do. Yeah, no, I feel you. This guy's talking about 2025 because 2024 is like they already got it figured out. Big Mike said the dating market in the U.S. is dead. No excuse. I'm 60. I'm sorry. No excuse. I'm 6'5" and decent looking. I'm still having problems here. The dating market hasn't been the same since 2014. Wow, man. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. It don't matter. I mean, it don't matter. Like, I mean, celebrities are getting curved in the U.S. Like it used to be. This is. I was thinking about this today. I'm like, celebrities are not even celebrities no more. Like, you can see. I'm using some of these older like uh, entertainers. I was like, imagine seeing like Bow Wow or like Neo or something, right? To a lot of people, they're gonna be regular people. You be like, oh, that's such and so. Um, they can be, and I'm just generalizing, but they can be in somebody's Instagram inbox and not even get, a favorable response. So women, and I'm not saying that celebrities should be, glorified over by women, but it just shows you that the climate when it comes to how women view men is like there's no it's basically like there's no value. If Shaquille O'Neal, a multi-millionaire, can get curved by just average women, they're looking at him like he's it's no value. It's a value thing, right? It's no value. Now they'll use situations for clout because what women have figured out is that I don't care about your money because one, you're not going to give me enough money that's going to be worth my time, and then two, women figured out I can make money off of clout, so I don't really need you. All I need is clout to build my social media status, and I can make money off being some type of content creator or influencer. So it all boils down to women have created a psyche that they don't need men, and they don't they don't. So whether it's a lot of women, a lot of it's a good thing women can be independent. That's kudos to them. um Taylor May did this reaction to a feminist talking about how feminists are complaining when they have all the things that they said they wanted. And so I don't want to get too much into that, but I'm going to kind of, cook a little bit. It also ties into a book a good guy told me to read. And you guys, they have an ebook as well. Let me get the name of this book real quick because it's important. It's called The Manipulated Man. both examples talked about how it's female nature to be around other women. Women are supposed to be around other women because social reasons. Typically, men and women don't really need to interact unless it comes to like sex and procreation. And so if we use that as a premise that women tend to are more happier when they're in an environment with around women, but now you have women in a workspace or women in spaces where there's men and women are getting more. Women aren't happy because they just don't have those interactions, whether they was traditionally at home around other women. When we talk about in the villages or situations where the grandma, aunties, and all the women are, talking amongst each other, and the men are out working or doing whatever the case may be. So now women aren't as happy because they are surrounded by men more. They're competing. Everybody's competing, and so you got all those factors going in. You got women that are just unhappy, so they're tired of men because they're competing with them in the workplace, in business, and so they're mentally and emotionally tired of men from a non-romantic space. So when it comes to romance, they just don't have enough to really even be too phased by them. You have to be a kind of extraordinary man or catch them at a weak moment where they just need something. So women have created a situation where they don't need men, and they have desensitized themselves from even having the desire to be with a man, hence the rise in lesbianism and things of that nature. So it's just a lot of things that are backfiring, and things of that nature. So that's the Matrix, man. The Matrix is deep. I could have you could break a lot of this stuff down. Let's see. Just John says Estonia has a lot of. I'm gonna bring up Traveling Tony. It sounds staticky for a moment, but I muted you. The Estonia has, and this says LVL travel advisory, so relatively safe. I need my blind. I feel you, man. I feel you. TG Local said, I think, man, that want to leave the Matrix thing, that women out the country are going to fall head over heels, and that is not the case. You're still gonna, you still gotta have. I don't want to say game. It's just that at least you can see it before it's coming, because you're gonna have. There's gonna be women. There's gonna be women with the feminist mindset. I don't want to get married. I don't want to have children. I want to, be this entrepreneurial. I don't want to be a housewife. You're gonna run into that everywhere. Let me see if Tony,
Yo.
what's good, bro?
What's up, man?
Nothing
Just
much,
woke up a few
man.
minutes ago.
Let me see. Big Mike said Black American women disrespect us, but they are super nice and feminine to white and Hispanic men, and sometimes they let them get away with extra stuff. I don't see that.
I don't see that. Yeah, I don't really see that. They treat everybody the same, pretty much.
Now, if you talk about divestors, that's a totally different group of women.
But Yeah, but the divestors even too, like they hate being black. You know, that's just the truth of it. Divestors hate being black. They hate everything black. So they just, they make. Look at the Queen Maker. The Queen Maker is a full-on lesbian. I didn't even understand like who she was until I looked at her page. She promotes pretty much black hate, especially of the black man. It's disgusting.
Oh
I'll never
man,
go back to the page.
it sound like Cynthia G.
Yeah, she's even worse, I think. She's even worse, bro. She was playing videos of the church where the pastor was talking about the black man is useless. The black man doesn't build. It was so crazy, bro. I was like, look, the self-hatred was on another different level, like off the Richter scale. Self-hate was a different level, bro. Yeah, I never seen nothing like that.
You asked about
a shirt, and I'm gonna cam up. Hold on.
All right. Let me see. You asked about monetization while you're on live. Yeah, you could.
Yeah. Before I get ready, you could monetize. Like, so I could turn monetization on when I do the StreamYard link or whatever. I could do monetization like when I'm starting the live, or do I have to turn it on after the live is finished?
No, you could do it now. You just go into YouTube, go into whatever your stream is, and hit edit, and then you could turn.
I'm sick. I'm sick. I've been forgetting to do that. Thanks, yo. I'm gonna do that next time I go live. Hold on, I'm about to cam up. Give me a few minutes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, man, the Matrix, man. I got so many. When I start, because I'm gonna do more video uploads on the podcast, and I got so many notes just about the Matrix and just what's going on. We were talking about when Tony gets back, we were talking about South Africa, for example, what's going on, and I'm gonna have him expand on it. But social media has a large influence, and education. Education could be more than just formal education. Education can just be from learning from other people, life experiences. But then liberalism was something that I didn't really recognize to think about. What I want to say too is that a lot of people attribute a lot of the toxic feminist behavior and ideology due to economic opportunities, and that's not really the case. Case in point, China, for example. Another case in point, I'm gonna use Tanzania as an example too. So China is the number 2 economy in the world. Men and women are making money in China, middle class, upper class, and things of that nature. So Chinese women are not treating their men how white men are being treated now in the US Matrix, the UK, Canada, Australia's of the world, because China has deliberately limited or removed certain social media access to their country. Like, I think they don't use WhatsApp. They don't use it's another social media. They've cut off social media. They even restricted things in regards to television. They even got curfew, cutoff times, as far as that. To the extreme, North Korea and Cuba has cut off a lot of things as well. Because a lot of these countries, even some of the Arab states as well, a lot of these countries recognize the power of social media and the influence. I mean, social media motivates people to protest against the government. women, to these men, they get certain ideas, and it has an effect on their society. So they don't want things to disrupt their society or make them unstable. And to be honest with you, as a tactic, as a war tactic, as a tactic to your arch enemy or adversaries, you want to if you want to disrupt things, you would use social media. Back then it was like pamphlets. Countries used to drop pamphlets so people would be able to read what's going on, and so it has a huge impact. So social media, and then education as well. But I use China for example because women make money, but it's not about women making money that turns where women turn against men. It's more about the spread of feminism, which is done through toxic feminism, which is done through social media, and then education. Um, I want Tony to speak on this as well. When it comes to education, instead of men and women, well, I feel like instead of women using their education to complement their partner, whatever his skill set might be, a lot of times they use their education to be combative, to create a decision making, a power struggle. As if I know this, and you don't. Therefore, um, therefore, you are incapable of leading me or directing me because of that. So, education has caused more debates, and divide than anything. I want to get traveling, Tony. I want you to expand on liberalism real quick. Let me see. Let me catch up on some of these comments. Big Mike said, just join the panel and speak your experience as a Hispanic passport, bro. LED International said the difference in America is that the government wants to destroy the black race in America, so social media is working. Yeah, I mean they're doing it by different tactics. They're trying to dilute the population by opening up the borders. You know, we're gonna go from 12% to 5%, eventually 1%. That's when they're gonna give reparations. When we like 1%, that's when they're gonna feel comfortable giving us reparations. They're like, all right, we don't have to worry about them flexing too much now. Let's give them reparations now that they're 1%. China, Big Mike said China is 1.5 billion deep with the second biggest economy in the world. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube are banned there. Good for China. Good for China. All right, cool. Let me unmute you. You ready?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, man. So I've been talking about a lot, man. I was, talking about what I've seen in South Africa, man, and liberalism, man. I want you to kind of talk about how liberalism affects a lot of these countries.
Oh, okay. So, as you know, and I talk about a lot, right? Like I prefer conservative countries. I don't like the liberal side of it because it just promotes a lot of depravity, you know what I'm saying? Especially sexually. Liberal places, you see the women dressed in scantily clad clothing. Every liberal place is like that, pretty much. Also, a lot of liberal places, gender roles kind of like fizzle away. So you get women who don't. You talk about the independent woman, right? The independent woman essentially isn't really like a woman like that. She's more like a man, you know.
Right.
So you notice those in liberal matriarchal places. Notice that stuff. Then there's the same gender relations becomes more normalized in liberal places, right? I don't like that either. I don't want to have children and my child sees, you know, two men holding hands and kissing each other and stuff like that in a sexual way. I don't want to see that. I don't want my kids to see that. So there's a lot of issues with liberal places. I mean, I guess but liberal places have their positives too, right? You get to do more stuff, you know, weed, things like that. You know, conservative countries, they're not gonna let you smoke weed like that. You know, it's frowned upon. Doing new things in conservative places, frowned upon. Liberal places, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Right.
So, you know, plus and negatives. But for family building, I would say conservative places are 100% better. 100% better.
Yeah, you're right, man. One thing that you mentioned to me, and I think that it needs to be echoed more, is that you can't get everything in one place.
I agree. Yeah,
you know, because like you mentioned, I do like some of the things like nightlife, some of the music, in some of the liberal places. I got a little echo on your end, but places that are better for family building, I'm gonna say like a Tanzania or Uganda, might be a little bit more boring for me at the same time. So you pretty much like you can't get everything you want. So let's see. You good?
Yeah, I was just walking past my AC, so it was gonna be a little loud, so I muted myself. But yeah, man, you can't have everything, and that's where, you know, a lot of Westerners too, especially come from America. A lot of people are looking for perfection that doesn't exist. You know, people also try to like pregame going to another country on the other side of the world for the first time. Like, you can't really pregame coming to Tanzania, Kenya, especially if you've never been to Africa. You're not going to understand. Nothing online is going to really prepare you.
Yeah,
Because
that is so true, man.
Me telling you the culture is different between you actually experiencing it. Like, whoa, you know, this opposes America. It'll sound misogynistic the way I'll explain it, you know. But when you see it, you're like, oh, it's just normal. You know, this is how it is here. So.
Yeah, going through, like, you know, because I pretty much had a shorter list than I did last year on places where a passport bro should travel to in 2024. And I kind of talked about different continents. And since you're in Tanzania, you know what I mean, and please make sure y'all check out Traveling Tony. You know, he has a lot of great content and advice in regards to Africa and just, you know, living in a more patriarch society. You know, so he has a lot of good insight on that. But I just feel like I just feel like, and let me know if you agree or disagree. I just feel like the amount of countries guys can really escape the matrix, I feel like it's like dwindling. You know, do you think it's dwindling?
Yeah, man, I think it's dwindling for sure because Western influence is growing. I was talking to African guy at the gym, and he was saying like he sees Western influence growing because he works for BBC Media. So he was saying like he sees Western influence growing, the influence of the West, the Anglo-Saxons. So, but you got to the thing is you got to go to off the beaten path places, and guys don't want to do that because you got to discover stuff yourself. You know, like Tanzania, you come here, you're discovering something yourself. It's off the beaten path. People aren't talking about it like that. Same with Kenya. You know, you're discovering a lot. Like people are just starting to talk about Kenya, but they're only talking about Nairobi. They're not talking about the other parts of Kenya. You know, Nairobi is the liberal part. So you're gonna go there. You're gonna see a lot of ladies of the night. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
but those
That's a
aren't
good.
the type of girls you want to have kids with. What are you saying?
No, that's a good point. I it's kind of not consistent sometimes because like I've been to, let's say, 14 cities in Colombia, 14 cities in Brazil, all over DR. But then go to Africa, a lot of times guys just go to one city. I mean, a lot of times guys just go to one city in a country anyway. And so we was talking about Colombia earlier. Just imagine like what you would miss out on if you only went to, let's say, Cartagena and Medellin. Is so much. There's so much to see in Colombia. Let me answer this question real quick. He said, "No excuse. What's your top 3 favorite countries in Africa?" I would say TZ, Uganda, and I guess South Africa, because I've only been to 4 African countries. So I would definitely say TZ, Uganda, no particular order. I like Uganda as far as the vibe, but Tanzania women look definitely looks better. Let's see, Justin Holmes said our Hispanic brothers have it easier than us in South America. The chicks like them more than us. I mean, yeah, guys are always going to have the home court advantage. I can't get mad at that. TG Local said, I hate the fact that the West is having influence on countries I want to visit. So the countries, this is what's going on in the world. This is what's going on in the world. The reason why there's these proxy wars, these fightings, this tension, all of it is because of a lot of countries, whether it's North Korea, whether it's China, whether it's other countries, Russia, they don't like the influence of the West. Whether it's the spread of democracy, which is what they say, publicly, democracy is better, right? And you got countries that's pushing back on that. So you got the spread of democracy, you got the spread, countries, you got the spread of liberalism, which includes LGBT, and some countries are pushing back on that. Uganda, for example. So there's countries pushing back on that. And then you got the spread of feminism, which I talked about on the other channel. Feminism is spread by language, through the English language. So it's hard to spread feminism to countries that don't speak English, because most of the feminist talking points come through social media by, let's say, women in America or in the West, which predominantly English. This is why in Africa, the countries that speak the best English have the most feminism presently. Like South Africa, you'll hear it in Kenya to a certain extent, but in like Tanzania and Uganda, even though English is an official language on the books, they don't really understand English as a whole like that. When I say understand English, meaning that me and Tony talking, they're not even going to pick up our accent to the point where they're going to really understand. And so they can't really, they're not going to understand unless it's written in words. They're not going to be picking up, women are not going to be picking up things through social media in like TZ or Uganda, because English isn't that strong there. But in South Africa, it is. In Latin America, it's picking up because in the United States, we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people as well, Spanish-speaking feminists. So they're communicating feminism through Spanish. So there's a lot of factors, but there's pushback. Like I said, there's countries that are pushing back against the influence on the West, and what what is going to be limited to is, Muslim countries, a lot of Asian countries. In Africa is going to be places like Uganda that's pushing back against liberalism, Tanzania, which has a large Arabic influence, they're going to push back on a lot of ideals as well. So, and that's why my list only consists of Colombia. I put El Salvador on there. Colombia just doesn't have the hip hop influence like DR has. Brazil doesn't have the hip hop influence as well, but Brazil has more feminists than Colombia. So Colombia just hasn't been transformed to the point where it's undesirable. That's why Colombia is still the number one place by men. It will be the number one place visited by men in the world in 2024. In Asia, it's probably going to be Thailand and the Philippines.
You mean Western men? You think Colombia is going to be the number one? My bad for the birds. I'm outside. I like fresh air in the morning. But so you think Colombia is going to be the most visited place in 2024, like overall, or you think by people in proximity?
Well, it's been ranked as the number one tourist destination in like 2022 or 2023 or 2022. But I don't know what that data is based off of. But if we want to say proximity in the Americas, yes, I think it's going to be the number one travel destination. I mean, women are going to Colombia too, which adds to that number as well. Yeah, I think Colombia is the number one tourist destination for sure on this side.
Yeah, on that side, yeah, because I can't really see people from East and Western Europe going to Colombia, in droves like that. You'll see more Europeans in Africa somewhere in Africa. I don't know. They'll go to multiple countries, Kenya, stuff like that. Europeans move around Africa a lot. That's their like Colombia.
That's true. TJ Local said, "When are you going to Kenya?" It's not in my plans. I don't really feel a need to go, to be honest with you. Big Mike said, "Yeah, Hispanic guys have the home court advantage, but that doesn't mean we can't have fun. Besides, there's Afro Latinas who dig us." Yeah, that's true. A lot of guys not going for Afro Latinas, but that's a different conversation. So, have you considered going to the Pan African Dating Show? I would have did it if I was there during the time they do it like once a week. So I just missed it. But I would do it. I would do it for fun. Justin Holmes said, "No excuse. I disagree. I'm in Malaysia and English is official language here. British colonized Malaysia. There's no feminism here."
But there's going to be colorism, though. The British colonized it, and it's in Asia. So there's going to be definitely colorism. Every country in Asia has colorism. Every country.
Yeah. Now, like I said, like when I use, because me and Tony had this conversation. It's not always black and white, right? Some situations we can say social media, some we can say education, some we can say liberalism, right? When it comes to these Asian countries, they still have control of their women. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this if I get an opportunity to say it on a bigger platform. Every group of men except Caucasian men control their women. Asian men control their women. When I say control, I don't mean like as like people like to take it in a negative context. When I'm saying control, is that men, how can I better explain control without it being seen as like you controlling a dog or pet or something like that? Men, they run a society. Asian men run the government, military. Women take the back seat to that in those countries. Men. It is established that men are on code when it comes to how they include women in society, right? They're on code. So African men are on code. Latino men are on code. White men are not on code because I said this a long time ago. For women to have a certain amount of power, a man had to sell another man out to get power. So what does that mean? That means that when it comes to politics and elections, it means that Bill Clinton did. It means that in a democracy, whether it's with a population, let's say 50-50 women, men, or slightly more women, white men, I'm putting it on white men. White men have realized that I can get votes to get elected by pandering to women. And so what happened in the Western societies is that men have decided, you know what? I'm no longer going to be on code with other men. I'm going to get off code for political gain. And so what happens is that it opened the floodgates. Men decided to say, you know what, I'm going to be more, I'm going to open up to pander to more women. And so those men got votes from women. And then once people realized how that worked, they realized women have, democracy gives women power. That is why countries are pushing back against democracy. Democracy gives women power. Now you have democracy in like African countries, but men, I haven't seen or heard of a political process where men are saying, you know what, we're going to put women's right on our agenda so I can get in political office. Once men start doing that in African countries, it's gonna be a wrap, because now, that's how you give women power through if you're earning that vote. What do you think about that?
I think that's also what you're seeing in South Africa. You're seeing way more independent women and stuff like that. You see it in Nairobi too, as well. It's because they want women to spend money without the man restriction what the women are spending money on. So, for example, I hear a lot of men in the West, in America, right, complain about having a woman that's spending too much money, but they can't say anything to her, because she's making the money. So you got families that are not saving enough because women aren't good spenders. And that's the point. That's why they're doing all this, is to get women to spend all their money. Women are the hugest consumers. Look at the shit that they buy. $3,000 bags, things like that, just dumb shit. So that's what women buy when they have money to themselves.
No, yeah, you're right, man. So it's so many angles, man. But to the point of Malaysia, for example, men. I'm sure the Malaysian men still have a strong hold on the culture and society. And just because you have the knowledge of being a feminist doesn't mean that you have the power to implement it as well. So women are social. Women access social media. You got to organize. you got to organize as women. You got to have women. You got to have the political support. A lot of feminism has to be supported too. It can't just be a desire. It has to be supported financially and politically. And so maybe in a country like Malaysia, they just don't have the support to it. But trust me, they are very aware. Bring some Malaysians back to the U.S. and see how social media has not affected. Bring them to the U.S. That's you'll know.
You can also go and look at like their political stances, like what's going on there as far as like LGBT, all that stuff. You can look that up, and that will shed light to like what's really going on. When you look it up a place and they have like LGBT parades, women's rights movements, stuff like that, you can look that up. You can see what's going on with that. So for the guys trying to avoid that, you can look that up.
Right. Young Villain said, "Why are you not interested in going to Kenya?" Oh, I'm not I'm not a traveler that wants to travel to like so many countries. Like I want to focus on a small set and then explore that country, visit 10 or more cities, and really give a more in-depth analysis of a country versus going to a lot of countries. With that said, is that Kenya, like Ethiopia, higher altitude, it has a cooler climate. Not bad, what I mean, but I just prefer not to go to cities where I might have to wear a jacket. I catch a cold easily when it's like too chilly, things of that nature. I don't even know if Kenya even puts heaters or AC heaters. Some countries they don't see the need for heaters because it doesn't get too cold. So, and then two, just African men saying that Kenyan women, they would avoid marrying Kenyan women over Tanzania or Ugandan women. So African men are seeing something, and then most guys just describe Kenya as being fun. Like I said, if it's about fun, hooking up, great conversation, personality, yeah, I think I hear a lot of great things about Kenya. Guys are showing receipts on poly relationships, but it's somebody that's serious about marriage. Even though Tony is against it, but long distance, because some people are not privy to live in these countries. Kenya just wouldn't be attractive, as far as trying to take a woman seriously, especially if you don't live there. So, but yeah, mainly weather and what African men are saying. That's kind of what pretty much kind of deterred me from wanting to see it. I've been to South Africa, so like I just feel like it's not going to be too different from South Africa as far as like how the fun is. Which countries do you plan to go to in 2024? El Salvador, Colombia, which is a given, and then I want to hit Tanzania again, Uganda again, and I want to hit up Rwanda.
I'll be doing Rwanda 2025. I'll be doing Rwanda. I think Travelversity will be in Kenya in like a week or two. So if people want to see more content, yeah, he'll be out there. He'll be outside. But like, yeah, man, it's a fun place, These birds are annoying.
Is he gonna be out there for a while, or short trip, or if you can't say?
He's gonna be out there for a while. Let me throw something at this bird. I want to go away.
All right. Yeah, I will say for content creators, Kenya seems like people do very well. A lot of Kenyans watch social media and YouTube, so if I wanted to do Kenya, just I guess to gain a Kenyan following, I guess that would be good, but um, I ain't really too pressed about it, man. I'll let guys have Kenya, man.
Yeah, man. When I was in Kenya, I talked to the guys, and they were like, you can't afford a wife in Nairobi. He was like, I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you got to have a bag. I'm cool. With the Niles disappeared on.
Well, you said you plan on going to you plan on exploring Tanzania 2024, right?
Yeah, I'll do like all major cities in Tanzania 2024. My sister-in-law is coming here to stay for a while next week, so I'll probably do a couple interviews with her on live stream. They'll be talking and shit. So, but after she leaves, because she's gonna be a doctor, so she's coming here to do like, the internship or whatever. So for like a month, and she'll be staying here. But after she leaves, then we're back on the road, going to Arusha, Kilimanjaro.
Okay. Yeah, man. I'm gonna be definitely following your journey throughout TZ, man, because I definitely want to I definitely want to know other cities in TZ, man. It's some beautiful women, man. Oh, I don't know if you heard me when I said this, but I said, man, I think TZ can give Colombia a run as far as like beauty. I think it give Colombia a run.
Oh, most definitely. There's like gorgeous women out here. That's why I don't leave. Like I let the dudes have the places that they want to talk about. Right? I'm not pushing TZ too hard. You know what I'm saying? I'm just talking about it. People can watch the content. They cannot watch it. Who cares? I'm not leaving. So they can watch it. But that's my.
Yeah, I kind of wish I mean, obviously you don't know in hindsight, but if I could do this, because I've been in Africa for 6 weeks, it'll be 6 weeks. So if I could redo it, I would have definitely spent my last 2 weeks in TZ. Not necessarily for a lot of reasons. Even though Dar is boring to me, it's not boring, but I'm saying it doesn't have the things that I like when I go to like a South Africa. But I didn't even go to Zanzibar, and I did the Tinder thing, matching with women on Tinder in Zanzibar. There's a lot of light skinned red bones that are fine. Oh, some fine red bones in Zanzibar, man. I mean, fine. And then like I was surprised. So if anybody on my No Excuse channel, I had a little clip with like this little chocolate Tanzania woman. And I really want to go meet up with her because I was like, she look, she okay. And obviously, I ain't gonna say obviously, but chocolate women don't get too much love in these passport bro streets. But when I seen her in person, I was like, man, she is flawless.
They look better in person than in pictures a lot of times too. I would say this is one of the countries like Kenya's opposite, right? They look better in pictures than in person. But like I would say here, a lot of times you be like, I'm a little unsure, and they pull up and you be like, damn. Because they don't really reveal their bodies and stuff like that. Is when they pull up, you can see it through the clothes because they're not wearing like super tight clothes a lot of times. So they really hide their shapes.
They got right. Let me see. I don't want to say all, but I've seen a lot of women with good skin, good teeth.
Mm-hmm. I think the skin is from the sun, though. I think the sun just makes your skin like being in the sun and stuff, walking, sweating. Like a lot of people are outside a lot. You sweat a lot in here.
Yes, you do. Maybe you can answer this. Ambitious Low Key said, "What are the summer warm or women's month in TZ?"
Starting now, it's cooking right now. So starting now until like rain season again. So like even right now, I'm sitting here, I'm sweating, but it's a good sweat before I go to the gym. It gets me going. So yeah, like Start right now. It's cooking. Next month is gonna be hellfire hot. In January, it's gonna be blazing. You'll feel like walking, like the sun is right here with you when you're walking outside. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I felt it, man, when I was out there, man. That's why, even in Colombia, there's so many different cities with different climates, man. So I'm curious on the climates and different reasons. Even as much as unpopular Kampala, Uganda is, I did find the weather pretty pleasant outside the rain. Like it was pretty comfortable in Uganda.
Yeah, you don't even need AC in Uganda, and that's contrary to what they put out there. Like all of Africa is super hot. Like you said, Kenya as well too is pretty cool. I was cold in Nairobi. I was surprised. It was very cold in Nairobi.
Wow. Is Gino coming back? Did he say he wanted to come back?
Who, GMT?
No, Gino.
Who's Gino?
Or G. Who is who
G,
else? Okay.
Yeah, G. Yeah. I didn't know his full name. So, but yeah, he's coming back. He coming back to Africa. So he needs to, and this is what a lot of people need to do as well. Like how you needed to do this trip with South Africa to sit there for a while to see what it felt like to sit there for a while, and now you can say, all right, I'm not going to do this again, or whatever, or I like it, or, you know what I'm saying? So you can really understand what it's like to be there. So he wants to do South Africa for a while. He wants to do Tanzania for a while. He wants to explore it. I think it's a great idea. Brothers should do that to find what countries fit them personally.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I am not a biased person, man. Like I was going hard for South Africa based on what I experienced, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat either. You know what I mean? Some guys they can't, they don't want to bite their tongue or go back on something they said, but I gotta keep it 100 when it comes to these places, man. Let's see. Why does Traveling Tony not prefer South Africa besides safety?
Westernization, like when I first got to Africa, like I was talking to No Excuse a couple years ago, right? Remember we were talking all the time and you were like, man, I don't like South Africa. And I was explaining to you like what I seen. And do you see what I was talking about now?
I definitely see it now.
Okay. Yeah, it comes with sitting down for a while.
I didn't tell you. So I talked about what happened to me at this club in South Africa, which really made me. It reminded me like how Matrix it is. So I'll bring it up again here. So I had went to a little like a happy hour spot with a guy that lives in South Africa, and even though I know this spot is known for like having like what Gooch would say semi-pros or pickup girls, but it's still an after hours. You got people coming in after work and stuff like that. Regardless, I never experienced this in Latin America, even with pros in Latin America. So I walk up to I walk up to a table, there's two chicks there, and just being polite, like, hey, how you doing? What's your name? The first thing she said was, can you buy us a bottle of wine? I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm just trying to introduce myself, maybe we can, talk later. She's like, can you buy us a bottle of wine? And I was just like, I said no. And I was like, I'm like, so you're not interested? And she was just like, no. So I was just like, that is something that would happen in like the United States. So that was just kind of like, damn, not the place that I love, right? They got this level of, that was disrespect. To me, that's disrespectful. If I come to you like a gentleman and the first thing you want to ask me is, can I buy you something? That's disrespectful. Another incident. So we had a section at this spot. It was like, let's say like 7, 8 of us guys and a couple. And we had, in South Africa, if you get a section, you got to buy bottles. So we had some bottles and stuff like that. Obviously, having sections is attractive to women that are looking to mooch. To a lot of times women are like mooching off of guys at these spots. So a young chick walked up to me dancing and basically trying to like finesse her way into the VIP section. So cool. We waiting. We waiting for girls to come or whatever the case may be. So she come in and then she got like, I guess her sister, but her sister was kind of, she wasn't attractive to say the least. You know what I mean? She just didn't fit in the vibe. But the other girl was cute. So she was like, "Can my sister come in?" And so we was waiting for people, but we was like, "All right, y'all could chill for a minute." So after like 5 minutes, like the homies was like, "All right, man, they gotta go." You know what I mean? Like our people's about to come through. So I was like, "Man, like you and your sister, y'all gotta bounce or whatever the case may be." So the sister left, but then she didn't really want to leave like that. She was like, "I'm with you." I'm like, "Nah, like you ain't come here with me. Like you ain't come here with me." And so she's like already drunk and young at the same time. So after trying to like nicely like tell her she got to leave, like I just went over to a security like, "Hey, you know what I mean? Like, can you get her out of our section or whatever?" And they come over, talk to the girl, or whatever the case may be. And so the security confused because she trying to say like, "Oh no, we together," and they like, "Are you with? Is she with you?" I'm like, "No." And so they asked me one last time, like, "Do you want her to leave?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she got mad and like poured her drink on me. I was like, and so I ended up pouring my drink. She got she got slapped by security. A female came over because they held me back because I was in like nigga mode at that point. You know what I
Y'all got
mean?
off quick. I got off real quick. She would have regretted that shit.
But I was just like, this is like I women. I've seen women turn up in Thailand, women turn up in Latin America, women that don't get their way. You see guys trying to kick chicas out their place, and they want to throw a fit and throw like I'm not trying to make it seem like this is just something that just happened in South Africa, but the fact that I've seen that level of behavior that mimics things I've seen in the Matrix, it just made me realize like this is a point beyond return when it comes to I mean it's an example, a microcosm of what is in store. So I definitely wouldn't see that in Uganda or Tanzania. That would not happen.
Because they know better. Like, I was talking to girls and stuff when I first came here, and even with rejecting guys, they don't take it to a disrespectful level because they will get crunched. Like you got to be respectful to men. Men are the dominant ones. You're not saying that they could have sex with you or anything like that, but there's a polite way to do things. Just you have to be polite, and I learned that even as a man, you have to be polite to other men, or it'll be up. It's just a respect thing in these countries. That's why I like it.
Exactly. And then a lot of times in those countries, deference goes to the men. Like it was a story I heard. A woman was telling me about her experience in Ghana, and she said that she was being a typical black woman arguing with a taxi driver. He pulled over. She she's a damsel in distress, hollering, expecting men to come to her rescue. But what happened was men came and was like, "What did she do?" Which she was surprised. She's of American, Black American. She was surprised.
So even when G was out here, I was talking about like a woman's role and stuff like that. At first he was like, "Man, that's kind of misogynistic, red pill." I'm like, "No, it's conservative. It's not." Fuck all that red pill, blue pill stuff, right? Let's talk about how it is in these countries. You know, it's a patriarch, so men are in control. Men run it. Matriarchs, women run it. It's different. So
Right.
people got to understand the difference between that. But we come from a society where women are pedestalized and men are put down. So it's kind of hard to see men winning or in control for Americans. I noticed that, especially Black Americans, because most Black American households are matriarchs
Exactly.
these days.
Exactly. Even when it comes down to inheritance, like I didn't know. I thought it was a West Africa thing, but I even heard in the East Africa, like, cause I was like, if I got married, let's say I was like, if we was married, you know, because in Latin, well, I would say in some cultures, like if your family got land, sometimes they'll like your father, give land to your husband to help you out start. And she was like, no, she was like, because all the land and stuff is going to the boys. There's like it's expected when you get married that you're going to be taken care of by the man. So so in a patriarch, the boys get the inheritance, they get the land, they get everything, and the daughter is expected to be position herself to get a man that will take care of to take care of her, because in a patriarch, if you give land to your daughter and she gets married, you're basically giving it to that man, because he's gonna control the assets in a patriarch. So that's why I go to the boy, so it can stay in the bloodline.
That makes sense. Another thing about patriarchies too that guys from the West don't know and need to know: coming to a patriarchy, you are expected to provide for your woman. You're expected to make sure she's good. It's not on her. So it's a little different from the West, where we're used to women having their own and stuff like that. It's not going to be like that. You are the head of household, so you have to take care. A woman won't respect you in a patriarchy at all if you're not able to provide, and she will cheat on you. That's where it is. Like, women in patriarchies aren't going to cheat if the man provides everything, whatever. It'll be stupid for them to cheat, right? That's how they see it. That's how they see it. When you're a poor man, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, they're gonna go cheat on you. That's where you get the cheaters, when they're with poor men.
Did you hear about the story with Simone Biles, the gymnastic, and her husband?
See. I seen the thumbnails, but I don't know who Simone Biles is. I don't know who she is.
She's like a gold medalist gymnastic. Short black girl, woman. She's a gold medalist, and so it was an interview with her and her husband, because she met her husband through I would say a celebrity dating app or whatever the case may be, and he's an NFL player, but her net worth is more than him, but he's still an NFL player, but he's an attractive man. And so and Simone Biles, she's attractive, but she's not considered like highly desirable as far as the things of that nature. So they did an interview. They was together, and they was talking about how they met, and like he said that she pursued him, and then he acknowledged himself as him being a prize. Basically it was a role reversal on how typically how men talk about, oh man, like I pursued her, I'm so like grateful to have her. Like he basically talked, and she co-signed. He basically like, she pursued me, I didn't know who she was, and he had confidence about him, and the women were pissed. Like, how dare you? They like, she's the bag. Not they was disrespecting him, calling him Mr. Biles. They was calling him by her last name. Like, how you have the audacity to say you're the prize and she's this gold medalist? So the point I'm bringing this up is that in a matriarch, they can't fathom the idea of a man being a prize. It is about the woman being a prize, but in the patriarch, it is about the man being a prize.
And I'll even go a little deeper, right, on a personal level. Even when because this ain't even on my platform. So when my family came here, bro, like they couldn't even see it because my family's more matriarchal. My mom's a doctor. You know, everybody has degrees. All the women have a bunch of degrees and make a bunch of money and stuff like that. So when they seen like my girls serving me, how women were and stuff in the country, it was like they couldn't fathom that. They're like, "What's going on here?" You know, my sister, you know, is a liberal, watches Love and Hip Hop, stuff like that. So she's dressing in scantily clad clothing. And I told her, I was like, "Yo, shorty, you might want to change, you know?" She's like, "Well," I was like, "Okay." So we out and dudes, you know, coming up to her like, "Yo, what's good? Like, you know, how much?" And she's like, "Disrespected." I'm like, "Yo, that's what it is." You know, you dress like that, they're gonna say how much you going for. So they didn't like that. But yeah, it's even Western women. It takes a certain Western woman. That's why I don't really understand how there's so many Black American women that live here, because this is so traditional. But they love it here. You know, a lot of Black Americans love it here. Maybe it's because it's the old ways. Maybe it's how we want to be. You know, and it takes
I got a theory on that. Why is a lot of Black women that come to Tanzania? Two things I've noticed. I know about the Mazi men or whatever you call them. And to be honest with you, like there's a lot of mixed looking men. So like, you know, there's a lot of men that they will be attracted to in Tanzania. So I can see why a lot of women low key, because what I was surprised about Tanzania was that I thought it was going to be like a lot of Black, dark skinned Africans. No. It is a melting pot of different ethnicities, races. It is, you know what I mean? It's not a Black. Uganda is Black. Uganda is Black. You know what I mean? It's 1,000 Tonys and me, you know. But TZ is very, very diverse. Yeah.
In Uganda, they actually thought I was Ugandan. Here, they know we're not Tanzanian. They know we're not from here. They know that. Uganda, they thought I was Ugandan. But they're not.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, Uganda was cool. Uganda was cool. The only thing I didn't like, I did experience, and I want to go back on what you were saying, the girl asking you to buy a bottle. That's common in the clubs, I would say, when I see, in Uganda too as well, you know, like when you go to the higher end clubs, because Uganda got some higher end clubs like Chop Sundays. Damn, this bird's going crazy. But yeah, they will ask you to buy them. Like the girl asked Chow Versi and I to buy her and all her friends drinks. We're like, what? Like, but it's just how she was bad. It was a Rwandan chick, actually. Super bad. Super bad.
Oh man. I could imagine, man. Huh?
So you got a comment.
Let me see. GMT Travel said there are a lot of Indians in Uganda. Would you say there are more in Uganda or Tanzania? Oh, let me answer Big Mike question real quick. I don't have no intel on Pakistani women. I mean, they border Afghanistan, so it's just I just wouldn't even want to touch that region, you know. But as far as yes, there's a lot of Indians in Uganda. I was surprised about that. I mean, I didn't know the mall. The mall I went to, it's owned by Indians. They have a lot of Indians own a lot of things out there, so they have a very large Indian influence, just like South Africa does as well. So yeah, I was surprised about that. TZ is so mixed. I couldn't really say they stood out. But what would you say about Indian presence in TZ?
Well, there's Indians and Middle Easterns in TZ. It's a lot of Middle Eastern Islamic influence here. So there's a lot of Indians. And on another note, it's a lot. The only segregation is between like Indians and Asians and Africans. It's not African and African segregation. It doesn't matter if what tribe you're from, light skin, dark skin, Africans. they all hang out together, they all come together or whatever. But like with the Indians, you'll never see like a Middle Eastern and African person kicking it. Never. You wouldn't even see the kids, even if they're from the same religion, like Muslim, Islamic. You won't even see them hanging out. You know, like when you go to the mosque, you'll see the Africans together and the Middle Easterners together, like separated. That was weird because I asked Tanzanians about that. I was like, yo, why are they like, they don't really like y'all, but they're in y'all country. And they're like, they don't understand why they're here, honestly. So even the Tanzanians don't know why they're here. But they had the obviously the Middle Eastern slave trade, right? The Islamic slave trade. I don't know if they stayed after that or what, but there are a lot of Middle Eastern and Indians here. A lot.
Yes, it's a lot to a point where I feel like it's just as much as a country as it is probably indigenous Africans. At least what I've seen in Dar. You know.
Well, I would say in Dar. When you go to like Mwanza, it's only Tanzanian. When you go to like Arusha, you're gonna mostly see Tanzanian. Dar is like the business district, so I guess that's why they're here. But they're not in more of the rural places. They're like in the main cities.
Let me see. What your thoughts on Ghana from experience or from what you heard? I haven't been to West Africa. From what I heard, man, Ghana is expensive. I always use a litmus test to see how the women are in the U.S. too, because every culture that comes to the U.S. doesn't necessarily conform to the U.S. like Ethiopian. So a lot of Ghanaian women I know in the U.S., they conform to a lot of things in the U.S., which is a red flag for me. It's expensive for what a lot of people say, nightlife. I heard for West African women, Ghanaian women are thicker than Nigerian women. That's pretty much what I've heard from Nigerians, people that have been there, things of that nature. I don't know if you want anything to add about Ghana as well.
A lot of things I heard about West Africa is pretty gay. They're pretty violent as far as how people are. A lot of things I heard too is they're very similar to Black Americans on how they move and stuff. But that's where a bulk of our DNA comes from, West Africa, so it makes sense, right? Nigeria, I have no interest in going to Nigeria. If you look at Nigeria, all the girls are like dressed like Nicki Minaj, Cardi B. It's very Western. Like Nigeria is super Western. I'm good.
Oh yeah, they have the worst. They have the worst weaves in Africa, West Africa, man. They have the worst weaves. I mean, it is.
No, they pick the worst weaves. They pick like it'll be a dark chick like me, got like a blonde wig, a weave, or whatever. And it's like, yo, it doesn't match your skin tone. So
yeah, man. I'm gonna hit West Africa. I got 3 West African countries that's on my list, and it's gonna be Liberia, Sierra Leone, and maybe Gambia, because they are English-speaking countries. But that is, that's the jury's still out on that. But yeah, man. What you want to say? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say Liberia. Liberia used to be really dangerous back in the day. They had those child warriors and stuff. But I don't know how safe Liberia is now. It might be safer now, but it's pretty dangerous before.
Yeah, I gotta get more intel before doing that. But
you still in South Africa, right?
Yeah. I'm still in South Africa, man. So after South Africa, then Colombia, then back to the Matrix.
Back to the Matrix, man. I know you enjoyed yourself.
Oh yeah, man. I've learned a lot, man. I've learned a lot about myself, what is important. I've learned a lot. Young Villain said, yeah, it is. I want to be an artist. I noticed You say I noticed there's more record labels and more music and more of a music scene in Tanzania compared to Kenya. I can't compare the music scene in Tanzania versus Kenya. Maybe Tony can.
I would say that too. Tanzania, for example, they're very internal. So the music for the country, for example, on the radio, they have to play 70% of their own music. They produce a lot of their own things because they're not accepting music from the outside. Tanzania is one of those places they're stuck in their ways. That's good and bad. So when you come here, it's more of a culture shock because trying to like teach them about your foods and culture and stuff like that, they may not be so inclined to try things like that here. But yeah, man,
That's
definitely
true.
there's a lot of music here. I know I don't know him, but I met the Harmonized dude here. He goes to this gym close to my crib. It's definitely a lot of music here, but I don't know if there's money in music here like that, like in the West. Probably not.
True.
Probably not the
True.
same. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the same amount of money.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could. I mean, you can make money obviously if you got a hit and you're on some of the streaming apps and things of that nature. But what I see a lot of artists do that's trying to break into Africa, they just do collabs. You see a lot of collaborations with American African artists, because they want to kind of get that, just like we do on YouTube, you want to try to build, crossover stuff like that. So if you want to be an artist, and you want to try to break in Africa, you're gonna have to, reach out to people that's on your level or maybe above your level for a fee, and and try to get some collabs. I used to kind of dabble in the music thing, before, but it's not, it's a tough field to get into, but hopefully that answer your question.
YouTube could be an avenue to get your music off too, and gain popularity since it's going to be your own original music. You could start playing it on YouTube, doing videos, especially if you're in Tanzania. Have people doing music in Swahili and you in English a little bit. Practice your Swahili. Learn Swahili if you want to be out here. That will blow
That's
you up.
true.
There's a white lady. I think her song is like Lete Mazungu or something like that. Whatever it went crazy. Like she got millions of views. She's making bread on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, white chick, yo, killed it, killed it. She got to make some bread. She's very popular in Tanzania.
Wow. See, yeah, that's what's up,
She does her
man.
music in Swahili. She does her music in Swahili, bro. The whole songs. It's crazy.
That's dope. Yeah, that's dope, man. Yeah, man, it's a lot going on, man, in these different countries, man. You got traveling, Tony. You don't have to travel to every country, man, to like really get what you're looking for. Sometimes it's literally just going to a different city. Unfortunately, I've been to 5 cities in South Africa, and I've seen enough. So I gave it a fair chance. I gave Brazil a fair chance. I gave DR. I went to multiple cities. Colombia just ended up being the best. And and I'm gonna do the same when it comes to a few African countries as well.
And I agree with you. I think if you're close to America and you can't come this far, because not everybody can, and like you were saying, and I understand that. So Colombia is your best option if you're near America and you can't go far. Yeah, pull up to Colombia, but it's just so crazy how they're like targeting tourists now, man. Like that's just the wild part. It's like every week you hear about somebody dying in Colombia. I follow DC Born Rob, or getting drugged, and it's just so scary to live like that, man. Personally,
They go into the same city. They go into the same city.
That's true. But I heard even in like the other cities, it's a little Cartagena. You don't got to worry about it, right? Cartagena is very safe. The cartel runs that. It's obvious the cartel runs Cartagena, so you don't got to worry as a tourist too much in Cartagena. But Medellin is like no man's land. You know, there's no man's land out there. You're taking a chance, and nobody regulates anything in Medellin.
That's true.
Do they even do investigations when the tourists get killed? It seems like it's like, oh, just another person dead. So,
It's if it's an open and shut case, yeah, they'll get on it. But it depends on how much work they got to do. If they got cameras and if everything is pretty much black and white, yeah, they're gonna cover it. Have you ever heard anything about El Salvador?
I know they had the army ants. I know El Salvador was very dangerous before. That's where MS-13 comes from. So it was very dangerous. I don't know how it is now. I knew El Salvadorians when I was in the States that would go to El Salvador and would say, go with caution. But, I don't know, has MS-13 presence went away or what's going on with that? But I know they were beheading people. They were tripping. So,
it's safe now. Lot they got a new president. They put 40,000 people in jail. Like it is now one of the safest countries in Latin America now. So yeah, I've talked about El Salvador a lot in 2023. But yeah, man, I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. Anything you want to, any advice you want to give guys when it comes to travel in 2020 for 2024?
Just try different places. Like it depends also too. Like if guys are just traveling just to see different places, like me, I was looking for a home. I was looking for a home where I want to set up shop. So it took a while. But if you're just going on vacation, just enjoy your vacations, man. Don't think too deeply of it. When you get to be a nomad, then you move around and see where you like to live. But in the meantime, just have fun. Be safe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Be fun and be safe. I'm going to answer this last question, and then I'm going to check out. He said, do you guys see potential in BRICS and it being good for South Africa? So here's my 2 cents. And then if you want to respond, Tony, you can. Here's my 2 cents on BRICS. It is too soon. It is too early to like really get on the bandwagon. BRICS is a strategy to not be dependent on the US dollar. What I tell guys is that no one is going to stop using the dollar until they lose confidence in the dollar. And the only way that you're going to lose confidence in the dollar if the dollar devalues. So what makes a currency have value is that it's backed by something. The U.S. has the largest, the dollar isn't backed by gold, but the U.S. has the largest gold reserve. The U.S. is the largest exporter of technology, and we have the most powerful military. So we have tools to keep the dollar strong. So by us being the largest exporter of technology means that we sell military equipment, we sell computer chips, we sell so much technology because countries just don't have the intellect, they just don't have the knowledge base to produce that. And so when we sell things, we're going to sell it in dollars. And guess what? You're going to need dollars to buy our technology. So that's one thing. We have the largest gold reserve for a reason. We're going to have the largest oil reserve, one of the largest oil reserves once we strategically use up all the Middle Eastern oil, because we don't use our oil. We buy their oil for a strategic reason. So saying all that to say is that BRICS, and then on top of that, they say you to buy BRICS, to buy a currency in BRICS, you have to spend dollars. You have to buy it with dollars. So I don't want to get into a economic breakdown, but when you have to buy a currency with your currency, you're still giving your currency value. You know what I mean? So my last point I'm gonna say is that when it comes to currency should be giving. You give currencies through labor, right? So BRICS current, if it's a true currency, people should work and they should get paid in this BRICS currency, not having to buy it with dollars. Because once you buy the dollars, where are the dollars going to go? The dollars is going to go somewhere. So I just think it's just I just think it's a wait and see. What I will say is that if people want to have a backup to the dollar, I mean, I think crypto is definitely worth looking into. Bitcoin and the other popular one I can't think. I think crypto is worth looking into as a to diversify, but that's a pretty deep conversation question. I don't know if you want to respond to anything with BRICS. And then somebody asked too, Tony, what's Traveling Tony's best tips for getting optimal zots with girls in Tanzania?
Okay, so the BRICS thing, I wouldn't worry about that because if America's going to lose power, we're going to go to World War III. So everybody's going to die anyway. So that's not even a concern I'll be worried about. But the girls in Tanzania, just be patient, man. Be calm. You don't have to be excited. Try not to trip about things. Understand it's going to be a cultural difference. So they're very shy. They're very quiet. Unless if you don't go to the club and get a girl and expect them to be submissive and get upset when they're not, like, they don't have very good home training and stuff. When you go to the club, you're really gambling. So that's what I would suggest. Just be careful when you go into the club. I mean, don't be careful in the sense of like they're going to rob you and stuff like that. Just don't use those girls as the standard for Tanzanian women. Club chick in any country, club chicks are not the standard of the women in that country.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But yeah, I appreciate you all tuning in on the Passport Bros podcast, man. Reviewing the top 3 places you should visit. Appreciate you pulling up, Traveling Tony.
Of course, man. Of course. Anytime, man. It just, usually my sleep schedule, like I'll be up early, I go to sleep early, and depending where you at, you're always on the move, so it's a little hard sometimes. But I got to pull up, show my support. I'll holler at you later, man. I'm about to prepare for the gym.
All right, peace out.
Peace.
Yeah. At the flight book, it's a library. I'm in the DRDO. Just took a flight to Bora and foreign cars like foreigners. Berry on her. Up in France, bitch, bonjour. I been come to Gosso, we going Paris tomorrow. Only Paris we carry, spin at the mall. We doing the same alone. My diamonds be saying, add some more change. That's the same alone. Dripping all the way from home and taking the wrong. Got the flight book, it's a library. We ain't flying solo. Tune in to the show. It's the Passport Bros. No excuse entertainment. Jay Slay on the show. Turn it up some more. It's the Passport Bros.